Welcome to my beginner's introduction tutorial to Photoshop. Hi, my name's Ryan and I am doing a little series on Photoshop. I am what I would consider halfway decent, so I am definitely still a beginner by all means in Photoshop, but my thought process behind making these videos is maybe you will relate better to the way I understand Photoshop at this point, and it could accelerate your learning curve, which is the hopes of these videos. So I have Photoshop pulled up here. I haven't got into it yet. These are just some current designs I was working on and stuff like that. So what you need to do is do create new is what you're going to want to do. So you have all these options. This is kind of where I think a lot of people just get completely lost with Photoshop, is there's just so many options and it's definitely overwhelming. But once you realize you're only going to be using, you know, a certain amount of them for your application, whether you're doing it for, you know, web use or you're designing postcards or whatever it is, you know, you'll only really need to learn a certain set of the tools available inside of Photoshop. So that makes it a little better once you can understand that and you get comfortable with what you use. You're like, oh, okay, well, I can do what I need to do. I don't really need to worry about that stuff. If you want to learn something, you can always just hop on YouTube and watch one of those expert guys do it. I'll leave some links in the description. There are a ton of great channels that I watch all the time. And what I really love is when I'm trying to do something and I find like a really short video that just lays out exactly how to do it. So after we get past this first video, that is what I'm going to move to, is really kind of just try to keep them short and to the point and just show you exactly how to do like one thing at a time. So potentially you're stuck on, man, I wish I could do this, and boom, like maybe you want to insert a pattern into your letters or something like that. You know what I mean? So we'll get started right here. You don't really need to pay attention to any of this kind of stuff. What you do need to pay attention to is your pixels. So more often than not, you will be working in pixels. You know, if you need some kind of reference, you can do like a pixel to inch calculator or something like that. Just Google it and get an idea. But another way that if you're doing it for web use, what you're going to want to do is just go to something like, let's just go to a website. Let's just go to one of my lawn care websites here and say we wanted to know how many pixels should this image right here be. Well, I'm just going to right click on the screen, open up the inspect tool. I'm in Chrome. Firefox has a really nice inspect tool too. And I'm going to hover over that image after clicking this right here. I'll click on it, and well, I didn't even have to click on it. If you look right up there, right above where my mouse cursor is pointing, it says 536 by 302. So it's 536 pixels wide, it's 302 and some change tall. So you would want to make it slightly bigger than that, because what you don't want is your image getting larger and pixelating. So that would be bad. But if you're not using it for web use, you'll just want to make sure you set your pixels for, you know, however big your document is. If you need bleed, make sure you account for bleed and stuff like that. And then what you need to pay attention to is how big are what are the pixel dimensions of the images and stuff that you'll be bringing in to use in that design, because you don't want those getting larger because they'll pixelate and stuff like that. So if you are doing web use, you're going to go with 72 pixels per inch. If you're doing print, you're going to want to go like 300 pixels per inch. So 72 web, 300 print, and you may want to look into that farther. That is just my understanding. I think that'll get you started off in the right direction though. So, you know, let's just start off with a 600 by 600 square, and we're gonna, you know, keep it at 72. This, whatever you set this at, doesn't matter for the design process. You're not going to tell as you're designing. I don't mess with any of this stuff. So if you think some of this matters to you, go ahead and look into it. But I've never changed any of these, and I don't have any issues at all. So once you have your pixels set and your resolution, you just click create, and boom, we're here. So what you're going to want to do is eventually learn short keys So right now I have this grid over my screen. I believe it's somewhere in like view and it's extras. And if you see right here, there's the short key. So I was just gonna hit Ctrl H because I already know that, because that pops up every time. Sometimes I want it, sometimes I don't. I can hit Ctrl H and bring it back. And if you're on a Mac, basically Control's Command. So when I'm saying Control, because I'm on a PC, you can pretty much expect if you're on a Mac to hit Command and whatever the other keys were. Some of them are slightly different. I don't have Mac devices, Apple devices, so I don't know what they are. So I can't do that, ad-lib that stuff like the experts do. So now we just have a blank canvas right here. So your layers are going to be right here. This is something you're going to want to pay attention to. And you really need to understand these layers, but basically just everything you drop on this is gonna go on the same layer or a different layer. So that will matter over time. If we pull up something where I have some images, let me just find some images real quick. We'll just go to something like this pressure washing site, pictures and videos, and okay, so we got 600 by 600 images right here in this file. So if I make this large icons, you can see we already have pictures here, right? So 600 by 600, we have a 600 pixel by 600 pixel document. So if I wanted to put this on this document right here, what I would do is just drag and drop it right in there. It's gonna put it on a new layer. So whatever layer you're on, it's gonna put this on the next layer. Let's go ahead and get one more thing so we have multiple layers. Let's grab this one, and I can't do it because this is still highlighted. So you just need to click off, and now that it's not highlighted, we can bring in another one. So before I do that, let me click on this. So watch, it's gonna put the new image in between these layers now. So bring the images back and boop, boom, right there. So if I wanted, you see, so it's under that layer. So that's why this one's being shown and this one's not, because they're on different layers and this layer's above. If I wanted to reverse that, I would simply drag that up. So that's that. I'm zooming in and out because I'm on the zoom in and out tool right there, the magnifying glass. So you just click, left click and drag left and it gets smaller. Hold your left click in and drag right and it gets bigger, and then you just let go and it just sets it wherever it was. So that's pretty handy. You'll want to do that. If you get too big, you'll end up getting these bars, and you can scroll like this. If you have the wheel on your mouse, you can scroll up and down like that. So let's just go ahead and make it smaller again. Okay, so let's say we wanted to make this right here the full length, the 600 by 600. Well, watch this. Okay, so it's going to get all distorted if we just click and drag on a corner. So I'm going to hit Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z, something you're going to want to remember for sure. That is go back. Ctrl Shift Z will go forward. So if you went back, went too far back, you can hit Ctrl Shift Z and go forward. And you can also just come up here to edit and undo and redo, and you see there are the hotkeys again. So there's definitely a handful of hotkeys you'll wanna learn, and it's gonna make your life a lot easier. But watch this. If we put this down here in the corner and I hold Shift, so I'm holding down Shift and I'm dragging out, and now it's staying in proportion. So this is crucial. So I'm holding Shift and I'm dragging that out and it's staying in proportion. Now, if I would have like made this a smart object or something, this is why there's the experts, you know what I mean? But if this was like a smart object, I believe, which if you right click in here, you can go like rasterize layer is something, convert to smart object. So if something happened to this and Shift is still distorting the image, what you need to do is hold Alt instead. And Alt is slightly different than holding Shift by the fact that it expands and contracts from the center of the image. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you can always just move it. And I'm on the move tool right here. So this is the move tool. So that's why I can just click and move this, right? Okay, so I'm gonna hold Shift and bring it back down, and let's see what happens when I hold Alt. I hold Alt and it's jacked up. So if Shift's not working, you need to hit Alt, and if Alt's not working, then you need to hit Shift. And you just hit Ctrl Z and go back, and then you just do the other one real quick. So it's not that big of a deal. Eventually I'll figure out what the difference is between the stuff. Okay, so let's look at the background right here. We got background and we got this little lock right here. So we can't do anything to the background because it's locked. So if I want to work on the background, I need to click on it like this. Well, what if I wanted to work on it and not see these pictures above it? I just hide them, right? So if these are hidden and I save this is just gonna be like whatever type of image you save it as, a PDF, JPEG, a PNG, whatever type of image file you save it as, that's not going to be seen because it's not shown right now. So whatever you want shown, make sure that's showing, and if you don't want something in the saved image, then you just hide it. You can also delete it. If you want to delete something, you could just click on that and click delete, or you could drag it down here to the trash can. So you can just drag it down to the trash can and it'll go away. So that's that. So I'm clicked on the background layer. So it doesn't matter that these are above it because I'm clicked on the background layer. And I'm gonna say, let's go to the paint bucket tool, and I'm on black. So you can flip back and forth between whatever two colors you have right here. If you want to change it, just click on it. Say you want to grab a color out of your image, you just take that little paint tool, and we want to grab this green, boom, click OK. Now we're painting in green. If we wanted to paint white, we would flip it, boom, 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 whatever. Okay, so I'm trying to paint bucket tool the whole background green, boom, just like that. So I really didn't think it was going to work because it was locked, but whatever, funny. So apparently you can paint stuff that's locked. So it's green now. If we didn't want it to be green, we'd hit Ctrl Z, and if we want it back, we'll just do it again. So okay, so that's that. Your shape tool. So I'm not going to really go into the shape tool right now. You can just draw shapes. So we're on square, so it's drawing a square. If I do, you can do a circle. If you just click and drag out, so I just left click and drag out, it's going to get all distorted. Control Z it. If I hold Shift, we are staying in proportion again. So Shift and Alt are basically your two keys that are going to help you keep everything in proportion. So if I hold Alt and do it, nothing. So Control Z. We'll just go with the Lasso tool. So Lasso tool is just freehand drawing. So I'm going to draw and I'm going to make a selection. Get into this more. Now I hit Control Z and it does go away. Sometimes you have to hit Control D to get a selection to go away. So if Control Z is not taking your selection away, it's Control D. That's one thing I picked up over time. We won't go into the magic wand tool just yet. I don't use that a whole lot. I've never used crop. I did do something with the perspective tool. It was pretty cool, but I just watched a tutorial and learned how to use that. So the frame tool, I've never actually used a frame tool, but this could create cool effects. You can basically draw out a shape you want and then drop an image in it and it'll take that shape. But I've never used it in this, so I am not familiar with it. Eyedropper tool, I don't really use this. I'd imagine you could find colors. I always just find the color I need when I need the color, doing it how I showed just earlier. I don't really use the healing or any of these things. I actually rarely use brushes. Clone stamp tool is pretty cool, and I do use this every now and then. This is kind of how I edit stuff out of images. As long as the image allows, I will use this. I try the content aware, replace the background and take out whatever. I don't ever get good results with it, but sometimes I try it and just see what happens. But say, just to get you an idea of what this tool does, so I'll hold Alt and I'll click right here. So that is my sample. So that is my sample area. Well, look, it's white, right? Because I'm still on my background. So I want to come to this. I'm on the top image and I'm actually gonna go Shift and make it the full size, so it's all we're seeing here. So full size, holding shift the whole time, and boom. So now we're in here, and we'll go back to the clone stamp tool, and the way you use it is you hold Alt and you take your selection. So no layer selected. Okay, I'm on my layer. Boom. So I have my selection, and if you kind of notice what it's doing is it's stamped right there. So as I come over here, it's going to mirror where I clicked right here. And when I start okay, so it needs to be rasterized. Here goes into the rasterized smart object, all this stuff. So you have to rasterize it to be able to do this. And now I'll come over here, and now you see the crosshairs. So that is what it's painting right there. So say for some reason I wanted to take this crack out of the concrete or whatever, I just come and do all this. So it's not going all the way down because of where my selection was taken, where I was holding Alt and took it down. And now if you notice, it's coming to the original crack, so it is actually painting that back in. So this is how I get rid of some stuff out of some images. Maybe it's some power lines in the sky. That's something really easy to get rid of. Maybe it was something on the driveway of a house, do a lot of lawn care stuff. Get some stuff out. Maybe it was a fire hydrant, maybe it was a sign. You can just, whatever it is you need to remove, this is a good way to get rid of it relatively quickly and easily a lot of the time. I'm just going to leave the image like that because I just don't care, because this is just a demo. I don't use that. I don't use this. I do like the gradient tool. So this is a way to get a cool effect. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. So right here will be a new layer. Boom. Something I want to show you before I forget is I clicked on this layer showing again, and we don't see the layer above it because it's transparent. That always means transparent, the white and gray checkers. So I'll hit Ctrl J, and now I have a copy. So if you're about to do something like, say you're going to do this clone stamp tool, and maybe it's your first time doing it or whatever, and maybe you've already done some other work and you don't want to really just mess everything up, just go ahead and make a copy of it and then work on your copy. And if you jack it up, you can always go back to where you started from. So that's a crucial tip that I do that a lot. I'm not really sure exactly what I'm doing, so I'll make a copy, and then if I jack this up, I'll just revert back real quick. So let's go to our new layer right here, and we could potentially do this on this layer, but then it would literally be burned onto that layer, and there's really no going back from that. So that's called you'd be working destructively if you do that. So you don't want to work destructively. I don't know, it's something like that. I'm trying to sound like these professionals, but I get what they're saying. But let's get back to layer one. So we're on the top layer, can't see it because it's transparent. We're on the gradient tool. So all of these tools, if you right click, you'll see all the other tools available. So gradient tool, we'll click on that. We're on green. I'll just go to white just to show you. So I really need to flip flop it, cancel. So we'll just flip flop it. So now we're showing white to transparent. So if you come up here, you'll see all the different things, all the different options you have. So I want to stay on white to transparent. That is what I want. So what I'm going to do is start up here at the top and drag down. And what's going to happen is it's going to go from a white to a transparent gradient. Boom. So I've been using this a lot to get some cool effects and to clean up some stuff and stuff like that. And it really comes in handy. And I like having it on this other layer. And then, if I didn't want it at the end of the day, I can just turn it off, I can delete it, get rid of it, whatever. So that's really cool. Use that a lot. You can do another one, as many as you want. You can go any angle you want. And if you don't get the look you're going for, just remember, just hit Ctrl Z and do it again. So it's really just that easy. Oh. Okay. Okay, so we're all the way back. Just kept hitting Ctrl Z till I got all the way back, and say we wanted to come from the bottom left up here and go really far. Boom. So we want it to be white, farther back here, start here. So wherever you start, it's going to be white past that because that's that side of the gradient curve there, right? So that's that. You have different ways to do the gradient, radial, stuff like this. So far, like I told you, I'm a beginner. I'm just doing linear gradients like that, and that's that. So let's get rid of these, and we'll just come back to this guy. I'll get to my move tool. Let's just say I'm gonna hit Ctrl T right now. Well, let me get on my guy. Ctrl T. Okay, so Ctrl T brings up the transform tool. I'm holding Shift, dragging out, keeping my image scaled properly, and boom, got it to where I want it. And let's take a look at some more tools. Yeah, I don't really use any of these very often at all. I do every now and then. The pen tool, I'm really unfamiliar with that. The typing tool is, to use it just to do plain and simple text is very self-explanatory. You're just gonna click and boop, and it's gonna put it on new layer right here. Let's zoom in a little bit and click on it. So here we go. So here is the font. So if we wanted to get higher font, bring it up to 60, and maybe we zoomed in a little too far. Okay. So there's our text. Here's something that you'll definitely want to know is if I hit enter and come text some more, enter, see what the heck is going on. You know what I mean? Like, this was freaking me out. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is so stupid. So highlight it all, come up here to your character, and what you're looking at is this one right here. So what I found is if you match your the weight of the font, which is 60 points, to this, the line height is usually a pretty good distance, and you can obviously adjust that farther as much as you want. So 50, 70, so that kind of stuff right there. All different kinds of things in here you can do, but that I just wanted to show you in this intro video, like that is a big one right there to me, is that line height. If you make it the same as your font weight, then you're going to be in a good starting point for sure, and you can adjust from there. So here's all your fonts. You can go to the type kit and bring in new fonts. A lot of them are free from Adobe, nice and easy. If this had different font weights, such as bold, thin, whatever, you'd see them here. This font right here does not. There's your font size, and it's also right here. And I don't even know what that means. Centers, center, and it's just, this thing's just over here, so it's fine. So we wanted this centered in the document. This is a pretty good thing right here. So here's all your alignment tools, but none of them are available to be clicked or anything. I'm clicking on them, nothing's happening. Click these three dots, go to canvas, and now we can align it to the center of the canvas, just like that. So that is something that took me a while to figure out on my own. Your selection or the canvas. So sometimes I will align items to other items I have selected. You can select multiple items by coming over here, and if you want to click in a row, you could hold shift and click all three of those. If you didn't want all those, you just wanted this one and say this one, you'd hold control. So that's pretty standard how things work on the computer. This right here, path, yeah, I wouldn't worry about paths just yet at this point. So you have all these right here, and I'm not exactly sure what the difference between this. This is the selection tool, so maybe you can do some of the selection tool options with that, and these are more for just like creating a shape with a gradient or a color in it. So I'm not exactly sure. The custom shape tool is kind of cool. You can come up here to your shape and see all these different shapes that are just built into Photoshop, and you can use those, scale them, resize them, all different stuff, whatever you need to do to make them work in your document. So that's something right there. It's pretty cool. The move tool, hand tool, that's just something with just moving stuff around. I don't know. There's no need. I'm guessing that's if your image is zoomed out too far and you need to move it around in your viewpoint and stuff like that. So the video is getting a little long, and I just wanted to give you kind of just a very basic rundown of some very common things you would do. So if you wanted to hop on here and just start learning the very basics, this was it. Before we end the video though, I do want to show you how to save and stuff like that. So a lot of times it's very straightforward that you're just going to go to save as. And the thing is you have all of these options. So this is crazy. I mean, sometimes I just have trouble. Like I know I want to save it as a JPEG, and I can't find it because there's just so many options. But just so you know, some of the main ones, if you're going to have it printed out, PDF is usually the best option to go. So even though this says Photoshop PDF, it's a PDF right here. It's a PDF. So that's what you would want. PSD is the Photoshop files. GIF is a GIF, but you would, I don't think you would ever save a GIF in this manner. So I'll run through that in just a second. EPS, I believe this is Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator's file type or whatever. I honestly, I try to use Illustrator every now and then, and I'm like, I know how to use Photoshop halfway decently. I can't use Illustrator for nothing. JPEG, if you're using images on the web, JPEG is going to be more than likely the best way to go. There are, you know, more efficient image types coming out, but to be safe and make sure that your images render on all browsers, I would recommend to stay with JPEG at this point, September 2019. Some other ones. So here's another Photoshop. So it's just, that's the same one. RAW, if you're taking images with a camera, you want to shoot them in RAW and then actually run them through Lightroom. So my next video is going to be a really quick video on how to do the very, very basics in Lightroom. PNG is very similar to JPEG. It's just usually a larger file type depending on what the image size and colors and what the image is of and stuff like that. But PNG will have more pixels in it, making a larger file size, which you just don't need for the web. It'll just make everything load slower. And then I'm not real familiar with any of these. I've never saved anything as that. So that's how you would save it as whatever. You know, I told you I'd show you how to save as a GIF real quick, but you know, obviously this is not a GIF, so saving it as a GIF is not going to matter. But we're going to do like save for web legacy. Is if you're using a GIF on the internet, that's how you're going to want to save it. And there it is right there. Boom, GIF. Yeah, so that's basically, that's all I do is save it as a GIF and click save. So that's how you save as a GIF. Doing it the other way will not work. If you were trying to save, you can't actually make videos in Photoshop. So I believe that's going to be export as, and let's see, I'm not exactly sure if it is or not. Export as, it's SVG is something you might want to become familiar with. I'm not. So I want to say that's how you can render it out as a video, but maybe we don't have that option because Photoshop knows this is not a video. We really can't save it as a video because it's not one. But yeah, so that's my little basic intro. If you liked it, please remember to like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, the future videos will be much shorter and to the point on how to do something very specifically. But I just wanted to get you kind of up to speed on the very basics of how I use Photoshop at this point. So I hope you enjoyed it, and catch you on the next video.